that's not my point. There's a lot of other going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new shit going on around there.
It's a lot. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah. Now listen,
there's a lot of things. What kind of things you feel?
I'm not in the locker room.
Okay.
When it comes to Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and the Indiana Fever, Sheryl Swoopes has been doing exactly that. She first claimed that there was drama in the locker room, making it seem like players couldn't wait to leave, and then she tried to disparage Caitlin's accomplishments. But Kelsey Mitchell put her in her place without even trying. She didn't simply resign with Indiana. Instead, she put an end to all the commotion with a single signature in the... Not only is Kelsey Mitchell a good player, but she has been the foundation of this Fever squad. Given the state of free agents...
Kelsey Mitchell here, and I'm a Fever girl again. So to my fans, to the basketball world, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be back. And he's been good to me, and hopefully I could pour in and give the same. So here's to being a Fever girl.
Swoopes. She could have gone anywhere, but she chose to stay because she wanted to, not because she had to. And in doing so, she destroyed every single rumor. Sheryl Swoopes appeared on Gilbert Arenas' podcast in an attempt to promote Swoopes. He pretended to have insider knowledge, saying things like, there's a lot.
He didn't mince words about how she believes the Fever handled Kelsey Mitchell. Personally, here's where I think the Fever didn't do a good job, and that was with Kelsey Mitchell, who's an unrestricted free agent.
Let's set the record.
A lot going on over there, and there are significant players that don't want to be there. Well, let's correct the record since one of the most important players recently committed to the team in the fourth quarter. Players who are unhappy don't lock themselves into long-term contracts. Instead, they test the waters and look for a better fit. If the Fever locked...
That's where I think they did do a very good job, and that was with Kelsey Mitchell, who's an unrestricted free agent, because Kelsey Mitchell had a hell of a season this season, and I don't think she got the credit that she deserved.
Her room was in ruins, as Swoopes suggested. Why would Kelsey Mitchell resign for several years and sign a super max deal worth almost $200,000 annually if she detested the situation? Mitchell had the opportunity to do so, and she went with Indiana in the 5th round. However, it's important to remember that Swoopes didn't just attack the Fever as a team. They specifically targeted Caitlin Clark, claiming that she had an unfair advantage in college because she played for 5 years, but that is untrue. Clark only played for 4 years, just like all the other NCAA stars before her. Even if she had played for 5 years, how does that lessen the fact that she broke records and altered the game for everyone? It gets worse. Additionally, Swoopes attempted to minimize Clark's influence in the WNBA by implying that Clark was having similar difficulties. Caitlin Clark, the first rookie in nearly 20 years to make the All-WNBA first team, set 62 records in her rookie season, led all rookies in points, assists, and impact, is struggling. If she is struggling, then every other player in the league should be praying for a bad season. This is what happens when old school players get caught up in the mindset of back in my day, where they see a new player receiving attention and instead of celebrating, they feel threatened, acting as though Clark's success somehow negates what they have accomplished. It doesn't. Sheryl Swoopes is a legend. No one is taking that away from her. But what she's doing right now, it's embarrassing. Let's talk about the real reason Swoopes might be acting this way. It's not just about Caitlin Clark. It's about the Powers. Shift happening in women's basketball for years, the WNBA had stars. But the league itself was struggling to gain mainstream attention. Now with Clark leading the charge, everything is changing. The WNBA is seeing record viewership, merchandise sales are up 500%, and attendance is skyrocketing, and guess what? That's not just good for Clark. It's good for everyone in the league. Even players who don't like Clark are making more money because of the attention she brings. The Indiana Fever alone accounted for 45% of all WNBA broadcast value last season. That's nearly half of the entire league's viewership impact coming from one team. And who's the main reason for that, Clark? But let's go back to Kelsey Mitchell for a second, because her resigning is bigger than people realize. It's not just about basketball. It's about loyalty growth and proving doubters wrong. Mitchell has endured everything, including the Fever she was drafted in 2018, coaching changes, losing seasons, and a total franchise rebuild. She persevered through hardships. And now that she has a genuine chance to compete, she is choosing to stay, which speaks volumes about the culture of this team and totally ruins the story. The Fever's president, Amber Cox, made it apparent that acquiring Kelsey Mitchell was their top priority in free agency. Last season, Mitchell averaged 19.2 points per game, shot 40% from three, and was one of the league's most reliable players. This wasn't just about keeping a good player, it was also about keeping the team's heart. Let's not forget how Clark responded to the news of Mitchell's resignation. That's not just a casual response. It's confidence and camaraderie, which is the opposite of locker room drama. If there is rivalry behind the scenes, players don't hype each other up like that. What's really telling, though, is how the Fever organization responded. They didn't just resign Mitchell. They made her a core player, which means they built the franchise's future around her. So everything Swoopes said about players wanting out was untrue. For a second, if Caitlin Clark were a locker room problem, Kelsey Mitchell wouldn't have resigned. She's a veteran. She's been around long enough to know when a situation is bad. The fact that she's staying tells us everything. Meanwhile, Swoopes is out here acting like she has sources, but where are they? Because every player on the Fever who's actually speaking publicly is saying the opposite of what she claimed. Let's be honest, Swoopes just got caught talking without knowing the facts. And instead of admitting she was wrong, she's doubling down at some point. You've got to wonder if this is really about Caitlin Clark at all, or if it's about jealousy. Because why else would a Hall of Famer spend so much time trying to tear down a young player who is actively growing the game? The truth is, women's basketball is changing and not everyone is handling it well. The days of gatekeeping success are over. The new era is here and players like Clark and Mitchell are leading it. But let's zoom out even more. This isn't just about one podcast episode or one bad take from Swoopes. This is about a larger shift in women's basketball. The old guard is struggling to accept that a new wave of talent is taking the game in a new direction. It's not a good look, so let's rehash. Some legends embrace it, celebrate it, and understand that one player's success benefits the league as a whole. Others resist it and attempt to undermine it. After all, facts don't lie, and Kelsey Mitchell put an end to Sheryl Swoopes' attempts to create drama about the Fever by resigning. Caitlin Clark is doing well in spite of Swoopes' attempts to discredit her, and the WNBA is expanding like never before. Furthermore, given that Kelsey Mitchell has since shut down, the fact that she remained in Indiana shows that Swoopes had no idea what she was talking about. Let's examine the broader picture because this isn't just about one person quitting. It's about how narratives are distorted in women's lives. Sheryl Swoopes' crazy hypotheses with a single signature. Basketball and the reasons the old guard is finding it difficult to embrace the new look of the era. We've seen this before. Every time a generational talent emerges, there is always pushback, and some former players can't handle the spotlight moving to someone new. However, this time, the WNBA is finally becoming popular, and it's because of Caitlin Clark, and instead of celebrating that, some people, including legends like Swoopes, are acting threatened. Why else would she go out of her way to disparage Caitlin Clark's accomplishments? Why else would she attempt to spread locker room rumors about the Fever without any proof? It's one thing to offer constructive criticism, but this was something else. Swoopes wasn't merely making remarks about the game. She was actively trying to stir things up, and she was exposed for it when Kelsey Mitchell resigned and stated that Indiana is exactly where she wants to be. This is where it really went horribly wrong, as her remarks united the fan base even more, rather than sowing discord. Rather, they strengthened the bonds between the football players. Instead of drama, what we're witnessing is a culture shift. This team is locked in, and the scary part is that the rest of the league is just getting started. The Fever is building a dynasty, and nobody can stop it. Mitchell didn't just resign. She made it a point to call Indiana her second home. She also praised her teammates and made it clear that she's committed to creating something special with Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and the rest of the squad. With Mitch's resignation, the Fever now boast one of the WNBA's most lethal backcourts. The court vision and elite passing plus of Caitlin Clark. Any defense is terrified of Kelsey Mitchell's scoring prowess and experience, but they have more than just those two. Nalissa Smith, who is always improving, and Lexi Hull are two of the league's top young post players, along with Aaliyah Boston. This isn't just a squad, it's a movement. And Grace Barrer and Erica Wheeler are each contributing something special. They're young, ambitious, and have something to prove, and the worrying part is that they're not even in their prime yet. But that's where things become even more intriguing. The reason the Fever are winning off the court as well as on it is because, while the old guard is busy griping about Clark's accomplishments, the Fever are embracing the bigger picture, which is why this team will be a force for years to come, in the new era of the NBA and why some people can't handle it. Let's discuss why this has been such a major issue for years. People claim that women's basketball didn't attract spectators and that the WNBA couldn't expand. However, take a look at where we are today. Caitlin Clark just broke all previous records for viewership. Her sales of jerseys shattered records on the first day, and the Fever alone increased WNBA ratings by 45%. This isn't just growth, it's a revolution, and some people still refuse to accept it because they're stuck in the past and believe that Clark's success is hurting other players. However, the numbers show that Clark's success is improving everyone. WNBA salaries are rising, attendance is at an all-time high, sponsorships are booming, and it's not just good for the Fever, it's good for the league as a whole. For some reason, though, people like Swoopes are acting as though it's a threat rather than a benefit, which is why Kelsey Mitchell's decision to stay is so crucial. She's not just playing basketball, she's helping to build something great, proving that the Fever are a team worth watching, and most importantly, she's putting an end to the noise and letting her game speak for itself. How the Caitlin Clark effect works, altering everything you are capable of. People used to claim that women's basketball needed a spokesperson, and now that we have one, some are attempting to undermine it rather than celebrate it, but the statistics speak for themselves. In addition to being well-liked, Clark is the most influential player in women's basketball history, which is precisely why the Fever are positioned for long-term success. With Clark at the forefront and players like Mitchell, Boston, and Smith supporting them, they are more than just a team. They are a movement, and movements never go away. They alter the game forever. Let's wrap this up. By ruling and demonstrating that players desire to be in Indiana, Kelsey Mitchell put an end to Sheryl Swoopes' attempts to generate locker room controversy regarding the Fever. Since Caitlin Clark is breaking records, changing the game, and drawing more attention to the WNBA than ever before, they are creating a dynasty that will rule for years to come. Ultimately, the old guard can whine all they want, but they are powerless to stop what is happening. The next time someone tries to convince you that Caitlin Clark's success is a bad thing, just show them the numbers, the packed arenas, the record-breaking ratings, and the players who are finally getting the contracts and recognition they deserve, because this isn't just a moment. It's the start of a new era. The Fever can't afford to wait. They need to make moves, get aggressive, and break free from the silent conspiracy that's preventing them from becoming a real contender. So what can the Fever do? First and foremost, they need to start looking outside the other team-building options. Perhaps free agency isn't the best option at the moment, or perhaps they should consider trades. They need players who will complement Clark and Boston's skill sets and who are prepared to contribute right away, rather than depending on rookies or developing players. So it might be time for the Fever to get aggressive on the trade market, in search of players who can help them right now. Second, the Fever must develop their own story. They cannot wait for the league to grant them license to be great. They must act independently, whether that means producing more media. Buzz must become aggressive in demonstrating to the world that they are prepared to win at last, whether it means making audacious moves in the market or contacting players personally. Gather the supporters. The Fever supporters are among the most passionate in the WNBA, and Indiana has one of the most exciting young and marketable cores in the league, but they also have to make sure that their fans stay engaged and don't get disillusioned by the lack of moves in the off-season. The Fever have a chance to create a new era of due dominance, but they need the support of their fans to push that message forward. So, what do you think? Is there really a silent conspiracy against the Indiana Fever? Or is this just a case of bad timing and front office missteps? Could teams and players be working together to keep Indiana from becoming too powerful? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I want to hear what you think is really happening behind the scenes. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the latest WNBA drama. This offseason is just getting started, and trust me, Indiana's story is far